If you were to describe how I think about which cards to buy, sell, and hold, one word would pop out: different. Now, the word different is a very broad term, and today I will be walking you through exactly how I invest in the Pokemon card market. And first is check TCG Player a lot, and I look at a variety of different sets. Now, I mainly look at a lot of sets so that I can gauge how they're doing overall, and I can then gauge the entire market. Now, sets can also be important because if I'm looking at one card, then by looking at the entire set, I can see how it compares to that. While the set doesn't directly influence the value of a card, it certainly can help contribute to it. If the entire set is going up, most likely the card is going up. Same with the card going down. Now, the second thing I would like to bring to light is supply and demand. And this is really the number one thing. People say that they can predict the Pokemon card market and they don't mention supply and demand. They're lying. Supply and demand is the only way to do it. Now, if you don't know what supply and demand is, supply is how much there is of an item, and demand is how many people want it. Now, this can be crucial for predicting markets, not only just Pokemon, but even other markets, retail, the global economy. I guess the global economy is a bit more complicated, but overall, just a plethora of markets. Now, how it influences the Pokemon market is that you notice the cards go up or start going up when kids are either shopping or are out of school and are now spending money, because kids are the main consumer of Pokemon cards. And so when kids are spending the most money, that the cards are going up, because now kids are willing to pay more for certain cards. And now dealers can get away with charging more money because kids have more of it, and so they're willing to spend more of it. Now, this also can send the market into a frenzy like what it is now, where you're seeing cards like the Moonbreon going all the way up. Even other cards like Evolving Skies, or like cards in Evolving Skies, just shooting up because of spring break, and which makes sense because in spring break kids are willing to go shopping, they're traveling, they're spending money, and because cards shot up so much during the spring break, or most likely due to that. I'm not going to say exactly, but most likely due to that, other people and other real and true investors started to spend more money on these cards because they were going up. Now, this brings me to my second point. This is one thing that I would highly recommend anybody look at when choosing cards. This graph provides a year range and can really give you a gauge of how valuable this card actually is, not just when it's going up. Because, again, when the frenzy is over, cards start going down due to supply and demand, because people have already thrown so much money at them that they're like, maybe I don't want to spend as much money. And so when you can see here that its low in a year for the Glaceon VMAX was 136. Now, this can be an important number because now you know that when the market goes down, this number 136.62 could be a number to look at when seeing when maybe you should buy this card if you wanted it. And this doesn't just work for the Glaceon, it works for literally every Pokemon card. Now, another thing I would say is that I take into consideration a ton is PSA pop reports. PSA grading card company has a report of how many are in existence for every single card. Now, this plays a huge role in supply and demand, because on down markets, when people realize that there's so many in existence, it can make cards with more in existence more volatile. They shoot up a lot, and it's easier for people to get their hands on these cards. Now, again, this doesn't play a complete factor, because, and this is also why I look at the set, because some cards that are popular, the PSA Pop report might not affect them as much, even if they have a high PSA pop, because people like them and they're super desired. But it is a thing to look at. Now, this is the last and final thing that I look at is really price charting. Price charting is one of the best sets to look at because I constantly want to know the true value of these cards, not just what the minimum price it is going for on eBay. Because people also will maybe sell stuff on offers, or people just like put in an offer. And this shows the most recent sale of the card. For this one, I just picked the Espeon VMAX, but you know what? You can choose any other card. Oh, the Rayquaza VMAX. And you can clearly see the most recent sale price for it, which can definitely give you a good idea of how strong of a card it is, how much maybe you are willing to spend on this card, and maybe is it overvalued or is it not. Now, I guess to sum all these things that I look up into my ideology, I try to look at supply and demand, how it is influencing the market currently and in the future. Because, yeah, as I previously stated, you can look at, if you wanted to choose any time period, just look at what the supply and demand might look like, and you'll have a pretty good idea. And then I always will try to pick cards that I feel maybe aren't the most expensive. I might go for a card. I know I've talked highly about the Celebi in Chilling Reign. It's like $30, yet it goes for like $100 in a PSA 10, and it was still a really cool card that was very good and is just more forgotten about. So I also try to look at the history of the card and figure out, based on like all these factors and the history, what cards are really the best to invest in. And then I also try to look, and this is my main thing, when buying cards to get graded and sell, I try to look for cards that if I added how much I paid for it and grading costs, I want to see the PSA 10 go for double that. So, and that's another thing I really look for, aside on top of popularity, the set, the surrounding cards, and all that. Anyway, thank you guys.